Excited to have Trevor speaking with us. He is BYU's resident hacker. When he's not on his farm, he's causing all sorts of secretive trouble across BYU campus and helping work with the students and breaking into different, helping with the approval of different departments, breaking into different department systems and stuff. He'll tell us more about what he's doing, but before we get started.
Hey Shane?
Yes.
Will you remind everybody to sign the list, make sure they sign the roll?
As Sherry just said.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to be here and to hear from Trevor. We pray that would bless him, that he might be able to convey his knowledge in an interesting and effective manner, that would be with him throughout the presentation, and with us that we might be able to understand. We're thankful for the food and for those who prepared it. We pray that would bless it to our use. And we thank you for all of our blessings and pray this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
All right, I guess I should thank Sherry for giving me this opportunity. Anytime one of us gets an opportunity to speak about security training, it really is a good opportunity for us because we tend to be the guys that are shoved way in the corner, and we're like the black sheep of the family. Like still
like the black hat.
When we come around, people are like, "Oh no, it's a security guy. It causes problems." So this is an opportunity for us to help dispel some myths, maybe help people understand some things they may not realize about cybersecurity. But first, I'm going to go through a little bit about me. This is the boring stuff. This is why I'm qualified to stand here and talk about this. I got all these certifications done for all these years, blah, 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 blah. This one's fun though. There's a charter school in Springville called Merit Academy, and I am their coach of their Cyber Patriot team. It's a team created by, or a program created by the Air Force Association for high schoolers to learn about cybersecurity. And every high school in the country has the opportunity to field a team in this program, and they have competition rounds throughout the school year where they compete against other teams to see how well they can find all the vulnerabilities in a series of system images. All the bad passwords, every little security vulnerability they find gives them some points. This is the first year we had a team in Merit. We took second place in state. Smart kids, and they're all coming to BYU.
Merit, we're early in my backyard. You stay up on Wi-Fi.
So when I first started the team, the kids all asked me, "Are you going to teach us how to hack?" I had 12 guys show up to our first club meeting. "Are you going to teach us how to hack?" And I said, "No." 6 of them left. I said, "But if you come to BYU, I will." So all 6 guys that are left are coming to BYU. So I'm prepping them all so they can be on my team when they get here and they can help me do what I do. All right. Now, outside of technology, I'm a cowboy at heart. It's in the blood of my family for generations. My dad grew up in Arizona. His father was in Arizona. My great-grandfather ran ranches down in the Mormon colonies in Mexico. Before that, they were in Missouri, running ranches up there. This is me riding off into the sunset on my favorite horse, Cherokee. She's awesome. She's so awesome, she just had a baby 4 weeks ago. That's Cheyenne. Cheyenne is about to become the best horse in the world. I started training her already, and she loves me. And see us bonding really well. But I deal with all this high-tech stuff here so much, I like to go home and go as low-tech as possible. So I have a little ranch down in Salem, and that's where I spend most of my spare time. Training my horses, riding my horses, taking care of our chickens, and all the other chores around the farm. It's a good way to decompress after all the high-tech stuff. All right, so before we get going, I want to show you this quick little video about hackers. I wanted to deal with this issue about the word hacker. right from the very start. When it talks about the myths and realities of hacking, well, there are so many myths about hacking. Where do I even begin? Which ones do I pick to talk about? So I picked the ones that I thought would help you guys the most. But let's talk about this term hacker first.
Which of these people is most like a hacker? A burglar, a bandit, an inventor, or a spy? The answer completely depends on who you ask, because the word hacker has taken on all of these meanings and more over the years. But it's the wrong question. It's like asking, is a chisel something you use to break into safes, to defaced buildings, or to carve statues? No, the questions we should be asking are, what is hacking and why do people do it? In the broadest possible terms, hacking is creative problem solving that takes advantage of the properties of things in unexpected ways. So when Galileo used curved glass to magnify the stars, that was a hack. Or when NASA engineers saved Apollo 13 with a book, a plastic bag, and a roll of duct tape, that was a hack. Of course, usually when hacking comes up, we're talking about computer hacking. But the idea is the same. Computer hacking is just creative problem solving that takes advantage of the properties of computers and networks in unexpected ways. For example, phone providers used to use tones and beeps to get their phones to communicate with their networks. What they did not expect was that hackers would figure out that those tones could be imitated with toy whistles found in Captain Crunch cereal boxes, thereby bypassing the need to pay for the call. So why do hackers hack? Many are driven by intellectual curiosity. They want to learn how a system works, to discover its quirks and key secrets. They are like cave explorers, who venture into darkness and see what they can find. Steve Wozniak, one of the founders of Apple, started that place. Like many hackers, his early explorations inspired him to start tinkering and inventing. Other hackers are like the security forces who want to defend their fortresses of information. They find the chinks in the internet's armor, and patch them up before they can be used against you. And of course, there are hackers with less than noble intentions. They can be motivated by greed, fame, rebellion, or the desire to hurt others for cheap thrills. These are the hackers that media stories have taught us to fear. Some of them are brilliant minds gone astray, but many of these so-called hackers are just kids who run programs that they don't understand. Others are criminal syndicates that may know more about cheating and robbing people than creative problem solving. There are also hackers who operate in morally gray areas, who might steal information to expose corruption, or violate privacy in the name of national security. They consider what they're doing just and for the greater good, while others see their actions as dishonorable and wrong. But assigning labels of right and wrong, or good and bad to hacking is no more productive than pinning the labels to a hammer. It's how and why the hammer is used, to build or to destroy, that matters, and that you must choose for yourself. Hackers, like hammers, are here to stay, whether you like it or not.
So can we call it hammers now instead of hackers?
Call me Hammer. Any questions, comments on that?
Really good.
Okay, there's a lot of this white hat versus black hat thing going on. I actually have both hats. They're cowboy hats. One's for working the ranch, one's for dress purposes. Somebody asked me once in a presentation I did for parents at the high school, somebody asked me, so what is the difference between white hat and black hat? And I said, nothing really, we're all evil. We all want to get into your stuff. Some of us just hate jail. That's not entirely true. We have different motives.
Did you start out as a white hat or a black hat, or did you just start to help?
I got into cybersecurity when hackers kept breaking into Logan City Library's server, and I was the network administrator at the time. And so I had to learn real quick how to do incident response and forensics, and they kept finding different holes. So I had to start learning how they were doing what they were doing, and it got really interesting. And that became my thing. I just got sucked into it. All right, let's move on. Here's myth number one. A lot of people say this. People say it right to me, and I just smile at them. I don't have anything important. Nobody would want to hack me. You know, it's kind of a silly statement when you really think about it, because truly, the only thing a hacker knows about your system in the very beginning is this: your IP address. But they also know that behind every IP address, are resources. There's a processor, there's a hard drive, there's storage, there's memory, and there are network connections. A lot of times, that system is behind a firewall. And if you can control that system, now you have a foothold on a whole network behind that firewall. You can take advantage of those trust relationships between that workstation and those other systems in the network. That is the value of any computer on the internet. It doesn't matter necessarily what's on that computer. It's what can that computer be used for. Let's go to another symbol. There's also passwords and keys to other systems, like the password to your bank account or the password to your mortgage company's website, which might be the same as your bank account, or maybe the password to your medical records at the doctor's office. All kinds of stuff that can be harvested and sold for money on the black market. The last I checked, the credit card number can be sold on the black market for about $50. So you hack around for a few hours, you get control of a few easy to hack systems, and you harvest some credit card numbers, you made a few $100 right there, boom. Some of these underground cyber criminal gangs, they hire these little script kiddie hackers, these kids that are in high school that don't know a whole lot, but they know how to break into certain kinds of systems. They'll pay them $100 for every computer they hack and give them control of. It's a great way to make some easy money and have some fun for these kids. And they haven't yet built that moral base in their minds that stops them from taking advantage of this stuff. So, saying I don't have anything on my computer, first of all, how's a hacker ever supposed to know that until they get on your computer? And second of all, that's not necessarily why they're hacking your system. Here's another, here's your computer. And this is what hackers really like to do. This is what we call a botnet. This is made up of all the computers all over the world that this particular hacker has already hacked. And he's put software on those computers that allows him to control those computers and tell them to do certain things. He'd really like to add your computer to that herd. We call them bot herders. And what they do is they use these botnets to, they rent time on the botnet to criminal groups who want them to attack a particular target, or a hacktivist group who wants to bring down a particular website to make a statement, or maybe they have a set of really particularly hard to crack password hashes and they want to use all these bots as a distributed processor to crack them faster. There's a lot of things they can do with your computer. It really has nothing to do with what you have on your computer. Myth number 2. Any questions so far? We're going to have a question and answer period at the end. If there's a myth I don't cover, or something, we can cover that then. Myth number 2, I have a firewall, I'm safe. Firewalls are good. Have a firewall. If you go on the internet without one, you're crazy. Don't do it. There was a time, when was it? About 12 years ago. So when Windows XP was still being sold regularly. I was running a computer repair store up in Logan, Utah, and we were reloading a client's computer with Windows XP. And we got it all reloaded, and we needed to download some patches. And we plugged it into the internet to start downloading, and 20 seconds later it was hacked. Because we hadn't gotten the service pack installed yet. Don't ever go on the internet without a firewall. That's just handing it to them. But it's not the end all be all. Let's talk about that. Here's the reality about firewalls. Some of you guys already know, you deal with them all day long. The firewall is designed so that when something comes along and tries to connect into your system, the firewall blocks that connection. It sends it off. The problem is the firewall usually is only looking at those inbound connections. It allows your outbound connections without any kind of blocking, sometimes without any kind of inspection. So the hackers got smart, and for a while they tried to hack these firewalls. They found creative ways to get into some firewalls. They find flaws, but it's not really easy to hack through a firewall. But it's really easy to take a website you already control, that you've already hacked, and induce people to connect to that website. You go to that website and you've modified the web page on that site to inject malicious code into their browser that takes control of their computer. The firewall never even enters into the equation. because it was an outbound connection. But now you've got control of the system on the inside of the firewall. That's what hackers call a beachhead. Once you have a beachhead, it's all downhill from there. Hackers can pivot through that one system they control and attack everything else behind that firewall. So firewall, while it's good, it is not the only thing you do. Which leads us to myth number 3. I have a good, expensive antivirus program. I'm safe. You all know who Frankenstein was, right? Frankenstein is this mad doctor who went around and picked up body parts from graveyards and everything because he wanted to put together his own man, right? Ended up being kind of a monster. Well, that's very fitting because there's a research group in Texas, in the University of Texas, who created what we now call the Frankenstein virus. And what the Frankenstein virus is they were able to create a piece of malware that once it gets onto a system, it goes out and it takes pieces of the code from programs that are already running in memory that have already been deemed safe by your antivirus program. It takes pieces of those and following this blueprint that's built into malware, it builds its own virus. Antivirus never even sees it. It's already in memory. All it is a series of jump instructions. Jump here and run that instruction, then jump there, run that instruction, jump there, run that instruction. And it just bounces around to all these little instructions that are already in memory. There is no virus, it's just creatively using instructions that are already there. Antivirus will never see it. Antivirus software has weaknesses in and of itself. Modern malware has found ways to get around a lot of the detection mechanisms in antivirus software. I mean, you shouldn't have antivirus software? No. There are still threats out there, lots of them, lots of really old ones that are still going around that you still need to be able to detect. But antivirus is not the end-all be-all of cybersecurity any more than a firewall is. Together, the two make a little stronger defense. But there's much more to it than that. Myth number 4. The IT guys will keep us safe. And we do everything in our power to try and shore up the defenses and to make things as hard to hack as possible. But I can put the world's best firewall, the most expensive intrusion detection system, I can give you the best antivirus software there is out there, and I can shore up every defense we have, but it will not save you if you give your password to somebody. I can't stop that. I can't make decisions for people. And that is where our weakest link is in people. Your security is your responsibility. Yes, I will do everything I can to help improve that security. But it's like the gun people always say, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. You can't rely on the police for all your security. Well, in cybersecurity, you have to rely on yourself for as much security as you can. And this is one of the reasons why. This is a guy named Kevin Mitnick. Everybody know who he is? Kevin Mitnick is one of the most famous hackers in history. Kevin Mitnick got in some really, really impressive systems. He's not a genius. Everybody likes to make him out to sound like he's some kind of technological whiz, some genius hacker. He's not. He doesn't know any more about engineering and technology than anybody else does. But he's a very, very good liar. And he's kind of a sociopath. And that was his claim to fame. He could social engineer anything he wanted. This is him telling the story about how he broke into one of the telco central offices. I'm going to let him tell the story. The volume's kind of low, so I hope you can hear it.
Security guard approaches us and goes, "Excuse me, do you have the ID? get into a pocket, and said, oh, I must have left my ID in the car. So they all be there. He goes, no, he goes, who's this guy? And I go, who's this guy? I'm going to take him on a tour. He's going to see the central office. He goes, it's too early in the court. I said, yeah, we just got him on the road, and my friend is closed on his he goes, well, where do you know? I said, well, we also see this in the supervisor. I told him to be a supervisor. He said, I'm just the person that's handling the office. He goes, no, you guys have to do this. So he escorts us to the elevator. And I know on the main floor is the switching control center. And it's the so we end up getting escorted up to the main floor. And there's about 5 or 6 people there. And the security guards telling us that the families can get off. And we know the buildings, and that's kind of what's going on. So one of the other supervisors, security guards, which is supervisor, gave to us, well, listen, you can't make it up. Because look, it's too early in the morning. If you want to talk, very good, go get the other and I'll be right back. Of course, I can hear it. So he says, no, we're calling the supervisor. So he picks up at the since we're your company director, I'm thinking about, just one time. But apparently the offense was sort of notes or whatever, listing the supervisors were going to pass the supervisor. Two million dollars salary. Because listen, we're found when you're going to stealing one million in our offices. And he says it was for you. Oh, you want to talk to him? Sure. So he hands me the phone and hey, Sally, how are you? I'm really sorry that you were open up with wondering whatever type of phone was going to the central office. And she's asking speaking to me, she said, who are you? Who are you? Yeah, I invited you Tuesday. Well, definitely, we still have a meeting for that report. But actually, she goes, who are you? Who are you? I'm pressing the phone in my ear. So the other people in the room can't hear what she's saying. He's only listening to my side of the conversation. And I'm like having a calm conversation with her. And I said, listen, okay, I'm just going to take it from around for about 15 minutes and leave, and I'll see you on Tuesday. And I went over and I walked about, it was like about 2 steps, and I hung up the phone. And I go, are you satisfied?
That's what we call social engineering, hacking the humans, or people hacking. When you can't get what you want remotely through the network, you get somebody to give it to you. Can't get the password, make up some kind of story, go live enough people, and somebody will give it to you. So when we do our penetration tests around BYU, we usually have that as being part of the rules of engagement. We're going to test the security awareness of your people, see how well they can recognize when they're being lied to, or how well they follow the security policies of the department. And it doesn't usually turn out very well. So that's all I'm going to say. Myth number 5. Cybersecurity is all about fighting and catching hackers. Yes, we do that. We fight hackers. We try to catch hackers that are on our campus. And it is a big part of what we do. But the reality is, cybersecurity is all about CIA, not the Central Intelligence Agency. We're talking confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. And hackers are all about confidentiality and maybe a little bit of integrity. They're trying to get into what they don't want them to get into. So that's the C. But then there's integrity and availability. Integrity is all about the data is what it's supposed to be, that it hasn't been corrupted or damaged. It can be caused by faulty equipment. It can be caused by a bad network connection. It can be caused by somebody putting it in the wrong place. And it gets deleted by somebody else. So what's this doing here? Then there's availability, natural disasters, redundancy. Are our systems sufficiently robust to make the data available to those who need to get to it if the system fails? So all of that is involved in cybersecurity. So we have to partner along with network engineering and platform guys to try and make sure that the systems not only are designed to keep the bad people out, but that they have integrity and availability built in. So there's a lot more to it than just the hackers. Hackers is the sexy part. That's the part everybody likes to talk about. It's the exciting part. Because the media builds it up that way. But there's a lot more to it. Myth number 6. I've had all my systems scanned for vulnerabilities and came up clean. I can breathe easy now. Don't fall into this trap. That is a good first step. The vulnerability scan will find your low-hanging fruit. And one of the first things a hacker will do once he identifies that your system exists is he'll run one of these scans to see if there's anything really easy that I can use to get control of the system. So we do it for you. We'll run that scan and we'll give you the results and help you know what you need to fix. But that is not the end. Here are some exceptions. Web application vulnerabilities are not tested by vulnerability scan unless you have us do a special web application vulnerability scan, which is very intrusive and a little more involved. And even that sometimes misses some web vulnerabilities. Sometimes there have been penetration tests where we've run a web application scan on a target system and it's come up with no vulnerabilities and we've been like, oh darn, no easy attack point. But then one of our guys will start to go through each form manually, testing it manually, and find a cross-site scripting vulnerability that we can then leverage to escalate privileges or something. Sometimes the vulnerability scan misses stuff. There's a lot of reasons why that could be possible. You might download malware. Vulnerability scan is not going to pick that up. If you've downloaded something with malicious code in it that's running on your system, my scan won't see that. Sometimes, as we spoke about earlier, antivirus won't see that either, because you allowed it. And what I call the firewall dichotomy, this is what I was mentioning a second ago. A vulnerability scan can only scan what it can see. So yes, you want to have your firewall, but having a good firewall configured really well also stops the vulnerability scan from seeing everything. So it'll miss some things. So don't rely on those results. Vulnerability scan typically will not find weak system configurations unless it happens to be something that one of the plugins is testing and your firewall doesn't get in the way. But a lot of these weak system configurations are something that are deep in the system that a vulnerability scan won't be able to see. But a hacker manually probing and testing things might notice, hey, this isn't configured right over here. I'm going to take advantage of that. And bad passwords. This has been the bane of our existence. We've tried for 2 years now a big password awareness campaign. Use good passwords. But consistently having accounts being hacked because they have weak passwords. Use good passwords. Vulnerability scan will not find bad passwords except in very few limited cases where it's testing specific accounts that are available to the network. Myth number 7. I hear this one all the time. I'll give a talk at church and for fireside or something, and invariably some guy comes up. I use Linux. Good for you. You use Linux. So do I. I'm not hackable. It's not true. It just simply isn't true. There are just as many security, actually, there were more security vulnerabilities reported last year for Linux-based systems than there were for Windows-based systems. They're just as vulnerable. They may not get attacked as much because Windows is still the largest part of the market share. That's changing very rapidly. But if you're a hacker and you're going to pick 3 or 4 specific attacks that you're going to master and be really good at, you're going to pick the ones that go after the largest share of computers, right? And that still is Windows. Now lately, over the last few years, I can think of 3 times that I've discovered Apple-based systems on campus that have become part of a fully Mac-based botnet. Mac gets hacked. The operating system, Apple may go through their operating system really well and clean it up good, make it good and secure, but you've got Safari. Safari routinely has had lots of holes in it. And if the hacker can get you to browse to a website that he controls with your Safari browser, he can get control of your Mac. It's happened, it still happens, and it will happen. And it's going to happen more and more because Apple is starting to get more percentage of the market share. becoming a more attractive target. So here are the takeaways from what I've covered so far. Cybersecurity is about you. It's not just me, it's not just Jerry, it's everybody. Everybody has to take responsibility for their own security. Everybody has to put forth the effort to use good, solid, secure practices on their systems and on their networks. Cybercrime is a real threat. It's becoming a bigger threat as years go by. Newer techniques, I mean, they're becoming more sophisticated. The number of hackers is growing. Every year that I go to DEF CON, the annual hacker convention in Las Vegas, there are more and more people there. I have to get to the registration counter at 4 o'clock in the morning so I can get a ticket before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it just gets worse and worse. And they bring their kids. Last year they started for the first time a kids hacking group, where anybody under the age of 12 can go in and they will start teaching them how to pick locks, how to sniff a network, and they're training them very young. I saw husband and wife hackers work together. They've got the mohawks and the chins. It's fun. It's an interesting demographic to hang out with. And then the presentations have become more and more sophisticated as the years go by. The things that they're figuring out how to do, and then showing everybody else at the convention. This is how we do this. These cyber crime groups, like the Russian Business Network, they take the money that they steal and they use some of it. They have actual budgets where they budget some of the money that they steal for research and development. And they develop bigger and better pieces of malware. They develop bigger and better fast flux networks that they can use to stay anonymous while they're hacking people. They build bigger and better botnets. They pay more and more little street kiddies to go out and give them more systems into their botnets. It's becoming a big problem. And we're starting to see an escalation in cyber espionage that kind of restarted and stuff. Now everybody's saying the U.S. can do it, we can do it. And it's becoming a big deal. So it's going to become a bigger threat. Pay attention. Every individual must take responsibility for his or her own security. We've talked about that a few times. Take time to do all the easy things. Yes, install the antivirus software, install the firewall, install the whitelisting software. Pick good passwords. If you don't have good passwords on all your accounts, change them. Change them to something you can remember.
If they already have bad ones and you change them, will that person still be able to access it?
No.
Okay.
Typically, once you change your password, they lose their access. They have to try to hack you again. You give it to them, or sniff it off the network, or something. They need to get it somewhere. Don't ever use the same password for more than one system. I can't tell you how many times we've done a penetration test where things were locked down pretty tight, but one workstation, one person left their workstation on and logged in. We were able to get onto it, run a program, pull all the passwords out of the browser, and that same password was used on every system that that person had access to, and screwed the whole thing. We got a whole network because of that one password. Don't use the same password on more than one system. It's inconvenient, I understand, but it will get you.
So what's a good way to manage all those passwords?
Okay, so you've got a couple things you can do. I use what's known as the passphrase method, because a good password has length and complexity, right? But entropy is a big deal. The more different types of words you have in your password, the stronger it is. And a password hacking attack is usually based on using a dictionary of words, and it just tries every word in that dictionary one at a time against your username. The more sophisticated hack tool will take that dictionary word, it'll try it as it is, and then it'll start interchanging letters with numbers and that kind of thing to kind of mutate the word and try it again and again and again and again. With the processing power that currently new PCs have, it doesn't take very long to do that. So if you just take a dictionary word and you put a few numbers and stuff in there, you're probably gonna get caught. It's probably gonna get hacked. But if you take more than one dictionary word and kind of mix them together and make a sentence, that's a lot harder. Because now you've got length, so you can't do a brute force where you're just trying letters one after the other until you get to the right password. It takes too long. And you got complexity to the point of you can't just take a dictionary word, modify it, and try it. It just doesn't work. And most hackers will not invest more than about 3 days against a particular password. They'll move on to the next one.
I know like some services seem to like say your password must be like between 8 to 12 characters, and I've never quite understood that. I'm just curious what the minimum length of the password should be in terms of characters.
In my opinion, from my experience, just knowing how much I can hack it, 15 minimum. Now, currently, the wisdom is 8 to 10. 8 to 10, if it's a dictionary word, I'm going to get it in a matter of hours. No problem. But I would say 15. So what I usually like to say is, let's say for your bank, for example, you can make a passphrase like, this is where I save my money for my trip to Germany. Put a period on the end, capitalize it, got spaces in there for special characters, and it's long, and it's easy to remember. Hey, I know my bank password is, this is where I keep my money for my trip to Germany. I don't have to store it anywhere, I don't have to write it down, it's easy to remember. For your work password, you can come up with something similarly descriptive, but it's a different password. And it's easy to remember. Now, if you just can't remember them, there are lots of different applications out there that act as password vaults. I recommend KeePass. KeePass is solidly built, it uses the encryption properly, uses good libraries for its encryption. You just have to remember the one password to get into the program, and then it has a list of all your other passwords. Some of the more sophisticated password vaults will actually log in for you if you set it up right. You say, can you get in my bank, put in my KeePass password, there's my bank password, log me in. You'll bring up the browser, log you in, you're good to go. Passphrases, they're all, I would almost say they're uncrackable. I will never say they are uncrackable because there's something new always comes along. But they're the most uncrackable passwords you can come up with.
What about LastPass?
LastPass is good. There are a lot out there, be careful. There are a lot of them out there that have little flaws in the program. There was one that Jared Harwood had me test once. He said, what do you think of this one? So I downloaded it, it was for a phone, an Android phone. I downloaded and installed it, and okay, it encrypts everything, good. Has room for lots of passwords, good. Requires that you have a good, strong password for your entrance password, great, this is good. What happens if I put it in the background and then bring it back out? Oh, it doesn't ask me for my password again. That's a big problem. You know, you get a password manager open, you look at it, and you see in Android, nothing really actually shuts down. It just kind of goes in the background. So this program, you bring it up, ask for your password, type it in, you use the password you want, and then you close it, but it never really shuts down. Somebody comes along, you got your phone sitting there on the table, they just pick it up, open up your password, vault, and there's all your passwords. Doesn't ask for a password again. So that was a big flaw. So be careful. Look for little flaws like that. But KeePass I know is good and solid. LastPass is pretty good too. Let's see. I think this is it. So let's keep on with questions.
First of all, so using the word Trevor as a password is not good.
No.
I'll change it.
And no, I don't use that password.
I won't follow you.
Your birth date's not good. Your social security was really bad. Your dog's name, your wife's name, your kid's name. Bad password.
But if you use due diligence, right? If you were talking about that, you do the best you can. It almost seems from this presentation like, I mean, what do? I mean, we talked about passwords and hiding them behind a single password. And you brought up a couple other things, but it seems like no matter what we do,
It feels that way sometimes. A lot of times it's like the old story where two guys are out hunting and they start getting chased by the bear, and you don't have to do fastest runner, we'll just have to outrun the slowest guy, right? Just don't be the low-hanging fruit. 98% of the hackers will bypass you if you're not easy. It's the elite hackers, the cyber criminals, and the spies that you have to worry about. They're the ones that keep me awake at night. We have government contracts here at BYU, research contracts and stuff. I lay awake at night wondering how many of those really good guys working for these espionage groups are into our stuff and I don't know it. Because you're right. If somebody is determined enough to get into a system, they'll find a way. Even if it's just doing what Kevin Mitnick did and lying enough to get their way in, they'll find a way. But we have to do our best to do our due diligence and to be as aware as possible of what's going on around us and what the latest techniques are. Yes.
Why don't these applications limit the number of times you can try to log in?
A lot of them do. In fact, most of them now do, but they aren't turned on by default. And oftentimes the person who installs the software doesn't realize that it's even there and doesn't know to go and turn it on. But many times that I've been testing the system that's running a version of SSH that has that capability, but it hasn't been turned on. And I sat and brute forced it for days without ever being stopped. So if you got to know your system, know your software, know what capabilities it has, and make sure that they're completely proper. I mean, we can't be casual anymore when we build our systems. We have to be aware of what's going on. I beg and beg and beg for us to be brought in on new projects early on so that we can say, you know, you guys are, your heads are in this project, you're trying to get it built as fast as you can, and think, have you thought about this and this and this and this? This is what I think about all day long. I spend my whole day learning about this stuff and looking at what the latest techniques are. It's in my head. But somebody who's a programmer developing a new program doesn't have that advantage. Hey, you're building this system. Have you thought about building this into it to keep it secure? Now, that's part of what we like to do with our job is get in early in the development life cycle to make sure it's developed securely as well as stable, the integrity and the availability of built in as well.
What are your thoughts on two-factor
I
authentication?
love two-factor authentication. One of our biggest vulnerabilities on campus that I'm not going to talk about is there because we aren't using two-factor authentication. And it would be very easily fixed if we did that. Two-factor makes it a lot harder for somebody to social engineer their way into your account. Let's say, like you said, it seems futile. Let's say somebody's really, really good liar. They get you on the phone, they send you an email. It's just so convincing that you click a link and it's a really good copy of the cast page and you log in and you never suspect a thing. But now the bad guy's got the password. If they have two-factor authentication, it's not going to do them any good. You've got to also have the token to get in. So it's one of the things that we're really trying to move towards, and I think there's projects underway to do that.
There are.
That's what we're doing.
Got some things
So we're on our
started
way.
in proof of concept, so
Yes.
stay tuned.
So, one time ago, there was an urban legend that there were classes on campus that were teaching students how to do forensic types, hackers, ethical hacking. They would give extra credit if you hacked into the system at BYU.
Well, the first part, yes. The last part I haven't heard.
That's not a forensic, or that's not an urban legend.
Well, we do have classes that teach this. We have a penetration class, we have advanced cybersecurity courses, and we have forensics courses. And they're very good. Some of the best in the country. We've had industry-leading security corporations come and tour the IT, the Cybersecurity Research Lab over the IT college that I've helped Gail Rowe put together. And they've come back and said, you guys here at BYU are doing things that we've never seen in any other college we've visited. It's incredible what you got these kids doing and the level of maturity that they have when they graduate in cybersecurity. And they're throwing funds at the research lab. We've got huge sponsors, Microsoft, Adobe. They're all sponsoring lab. They're giving hardware. They're giving money because they like what they're going. In fact, Adobe has hired, I think, 60% of our graduates from the cybersecurity program have gone to work for Adobe. Because Adobe knows that they have the skills they need. And we do have a red team, student red team that I work with to do our penetration tests around campus, because I'm just one guy and I could never do justice to the test as just myself. You've got to have more than one head to work through it. So these guys, these are the cream of the crop in the cybersecurity program. And we mentor them, we train them, and they help us go out and do those penetration tests, but with permission from the department heads, with permission from the CSRs, signed and documented in the formal rules of engagement document. And if they stray outside those rules of engagement, there are severe penalties for the students who do that. So that might be where the rumor came from.
One other question. So you touched on it briefly. What about mobile devices and security?
Mobile devices are really hard to secure because frankly there just really isn't a good antivirus product out there for mobile phones. They've become a bigger target, especially Androids. I mean, Apple developers for the iPhone and the iPad, they hate how strict the App Store is. You've got to go through all these hoops and everything to get your app into the App Store. Apple puts them through a lot of scrutiny before they will allow an app to show up in the App Store. And that keeps out a lot of the malware for Apple devices. But Android is not quite so strict. And so we're seeing a huge proliferation of Android-based malware and a large increase in the number of Android phones that can hack. If you root your Android phone, you're triply in danger. Because now you've given your phone the ability to do anything as a super user. And it gets a little tougher. Here on the university campus, it becomes a real big deal because everybody brings their own device. So it's a forensic issue for us because now they own the device, we don't have any right to go and look at it. If somebody does something evil on campus, we can't just confiscate that device and look at it because we don't own it. So it's a forensics issue. It's also a security issue because they take these devices home. Who knows what security countermeasures they have at home? Do they have a firewall? Do they have something at home? What's going on? Are the other computers at home that their kids are using? Are they clean? What's going on there? System gets hacked there, then they bring it to campus. Now the hacker they have an easy way to get into it there, it's come to campus, and now they have a beachhead here on our network. And I can't detect it because it didn't happen while they were here. So these are the things that keep me up at night. And phones are getting hacked left and right. Careful. Put you down, especially on Android. Look at when the little thing pops up and says what permissions the app is asking for, pay attention. Let's look at that. There's I can't remember what the app was I downloaded the other day. It was just something that looked like, oh, that looks like a really neat tool. I wonder how that works. And then I read the summary, it looks really good. I downloaded it, installed it, and when it started to install, it pops up a thing. This is asking for access to all your social profiles. Why does it need access to my social profiles? It has nothing to do with what this app is supposed to be doing. Pay attention. There's good information on this one.
Well, you were talking about the botnets and being hacked, being active botnet. What are, you're talking about scams that sound like you can do, and people like you, but like, how can I know my computer is a botnet? Is there a way to detect that?
All you can really do is run antivirus scans on it. I recommend doing multiple different vendors. They're McAfee and Trend Micro. They all offer web-based virus scans. You can just go to the web page and load an ActiveX control and scan it all over. You can do multiple of those. That way, if there's anything on there that has disabled your antivirus software, those web-based scans aren't disabled, and they might find it. Here at BYU, our department offers vulnerability scans on demand for BYU-owned systems. So if you want your system scanned, we'll happily do it for you and give you the results. If you have questions about those results, we'll help you figure them out.